Will you define apologetics?
Yeah, apologetics. Dan Peterson talks a lot about this. Dan Peterson has obviously been a very effective, but apologetics is just a response to a critique. I think it's from the Latin word to respond. And it's people saying, if someone goes online and says Joseph Smith was a pedophile, responding back and saying, this is not true. That is not an accurate characterization of Joseph Smith or Brigham Young. And so people will make a lot of online content on YouTube and on Facebook and things like that, as they'll identify as an apologist. And that means that they are defending the church through online content. And so there's a lot of them out there. But there's this kind of new growing group within apologetics that is being less defensive. They're pushing back and saying, what you said is wrong. Let me quote a scholar, or let me point to real sources. And then other things, what you've said is true, but let's historically contextualize this. I want to say why I am a Latter-day Saint knowing about the Mountain Meadows Massacre. Like, that does not I don't leave the church when I learn about the Mountain Meadows Massacre. I can see it as harmful and wrong and say why I believe that this is the Church of Jesus Christ restored on the earth. So yeah, apologetics has a long history in the church. For a long time, it's looked a lot like evangelical apologetics, where I think sometimes we've made silly arguments to prove that we're the one and only true church. I think there's healthier approaches that we're taking that I think are far more effective. Yeah, I think it's meaningful that missionaries have the biggest impact on converting people to the church and bringing people that have testimonies on saying, let us go and show you the archaeology to prove the Book of Mormon, and instead say, read this passage, hear my testimony, and pray for yourself. Because I think that the testimony of the Spirit is the most effective tool, and they're trying to infuse that into apologetics. And I think it's a really good trend. But yeah, David Snell is a great example of a person that does that kind of apologetics. I wouldn't call myself an apologist, but I have for some time made online content of trying to create healthier frameworks of how people see history and historical figures, which can be apologetic-y, but like I have no problem with critiquing members of my faith, members of my history, past prophets. I have no problem with critiquing that and still sustaining them as prophets and members of my faith of a true church.